Hello there. So, we're back. Part 2. So basically, I had filmed this twice now, and my camera won't save it, so we're hoping this will work. Third time's a charm. So basically, I sat my grandmother down in the, in the interim of all of the stuff going wrong with, my biological mom being very cruel. And then we had a conversation, and this is where I was enlightened about the fact that Sarah, my biological mom, had been planting these literal bullcrap lies in her head since I was little. That's why she was, being the way she was towards me. That's why she was upset about things towards me, and that's why everything was how it was now, because she would just get so upset and not even think to ask me or talk to me about it because, well, Sarah lied when she was young, so I must, what's the point of asking me? I'm probably just going to lie about it, right? Wrong, but whatever, since I wasn't even doing it. But, she'd just blow up, and she was very temperamental and not owning how wrong that was, and a fan of corporal punishment. And the religion believes, you don't hold hands, you don't get tattoos, you don't do more than a peck on the cheek before marriage, blah, blah, blah. And it's not everybody's cup of tea. My biological mom would, basically, the way we bonded and the way we really did anything or related, I guess, was with her encouraging me to do things sexually and to drink and to use substances, and I wanted to get clean, and I wanted to live my better life and really get to move on from all of that and be a good person. And she wasn't like that. Of course, at that time, I felt, because of how Sarah was, I felt that sexuality was a way to really be worth something. So for me, I was explaining that to my grandmother, she wanted attention from band people, and, it was easy to get someone a fake ID when you look older and you're busty and you're desperate to please your mom and to get some sort of recognition because you're being yelled at and corporally punished for things you're not doing. And I was like, look, I should have said I didn't do this, which I did say that, but she should have said then why is Sarah telling me this? Or, it can't all be on the kid. And now I'm an adult, so I told her I'm an adult now. Now that we're talking openly, we can talk and have a relationship or not. It's not all on me, it's not all on her. But until she, at least to a point, sees that it's really hard for a kid to not have friends and to be grounded for a month because she thinks I looked at a boy on Boy Meets World and thought he was cute. Really? When I, at the point, didn't even think that guys were cute. And there was no talking and no open conversation. Sex was something I'd already had multiple times when I was older. This was like when I was like a older, like middle upper teenager, and then she's like, oh, well, it's wrong, it's scary, and you're gonna go to hell, and explained it in just a brutal, awful, and very untrue, factually way. And now I'm someone who's very sexually confident. I know my body, I know myself. I am a sexual submissive in BDSM towards only very, very trusted men who I would trust as my dominant, and to hold my life in their hands and to have a spiritual, emotional, and physical contact with that's enlightening and beautiful. And then when I'm with women, I'm the dominant. I would never be submissive towards a woman. I would never be the female role. I'm always the male role. And I also have been the male role with gay men. I don't have male parts, but not to get too blunt into it, but, there's fake stuff you can do, and it works, so it's fine. So I'm just somebody who is I'm very set in my ways. I know what I like. I know how my body is and how to make somebody else really feel comfortable being themselves and loving their body. And I would never pressure anybody to do something they don't like. And I would never judge somebody for liking something that most don't or that most judge. It's just a way that I'm very confident, and Jehovah's Witnesses aren't for it. And I explained to my grandmother that if we're going to have a relationship, you've got to stop with the shaming and the scare tactics, especially because that's one of the few things that, as wrong as it was, it's one of the only things I had comfort in, because that's the only few times, like once a month, my biological mom would come around. If I wasn't willing to like go to the concerts and be flirty and a groupie type mentality with her, like then I wasn't cool and then I wasn't worth having around. And it was an unhealthy coping mechanism then, but as an adult, it became a healthy coping mechanism when I did it, you know, in a way I wanted and was consenting to and happy to. And it was just something that I loved and that I became very confident with. And another thing was tattoos. I told her, you look at it as I'm rebelling or doing it for that, and I never did. I waited till my 18th birthday. I got a tattoo, came back the next day, got another one, and 4 days later I went back and had my entire, like, up my spine done, and then from the middle upper of my back, just like right under my shoulder blades down, had my whole back done, and lower back, and going way down and way up to the sides, and it's beautiful. I love that. I love the piece. And every tattoo for me tells a story. Every flower is a person or an event in my life that meant something. The same with butterflies and leaves and figures, and everything tells a story, good and bad parts of my life that I feel really shaped me as a person to be who I am. It's my life story, good, bad, all of it together. And it meant everything to me. And I also told her, it's like, I need to get sober, and that's never going to happen while my biological mom's around. It's never going to happen while she's lying, and with how cruel she was about things that happened to my brother and to me, and knowing what she's all lied about, from hearing it then to my grandma, hearing some of the things my mom said. I'd never speak them, I'll never repeat them, but it was heartbreaking and shocking and disgusting. And I was just sitting there in shock listening to it, as I'm sure my grandmother was in shock listening to me too. But it was one of those, like, okay, well, I'm never going to speak to her again, because she didn't raise me. She's not my mother. Mothers aren't just who gave birth to you, it's who raised you and who was a good person. Family's not always blood. Blood's not always family. It's just not. And to this day, I won't speak to her, and I never want to again, because every time she's in my life, it's chaotic, it's toxic. And as sad as it is, the siblings that I have that still keep her in their life, I can't be around them, because when it goes back to her, it's immediately her trying to manipulate them, and them saying stuff she's saying to me, and it's just, I'm not about it. I know what she's trying to do. She can't handle other people being happy unless the happiness is caused by her. She wants everyone reliant to her. She needs to be needed. She doesn't like when people succeed in life, and that's not right. She has literally tried to go and toxically ruin friendships and relationships of mine as an adult right before I cut her out. That a really, really wonderful relationship with a really sweet person who's still a good friend of mine, who was working at the same place she was, at a furniture store. She was his boss. And she tried to butt in and constantly break that up, because she didn't think we would be so, like, happy and similar. And we were both into music and band people and similar and had everything in common and loved the same kind of things. So we worked out perfect. And she hated that and did everything and would say things to both of us that were untrue. And we knew it was untrue because we talked to each other then, like, hey, is this, did you say this? No. And we believed each other and had enough confidence to know she was playing games. And at this point, I'd already realized she was this way, and it was right before the downfall and cutting her out. But all that aside, I had just been on to what she was like, and then hearing what my grandmother was all telling me was just confirmation of, like, wow, this person's really messed up, and, like, really, really, it sucks, because I really wanted her to love me, and I really loved her, and she's really a bad person and really messed up a lot. And my grandmother 180'd, honestly. She still believes what she does, and I've told her flat out, I feel like I have a higher power. I have something I believe in. I have an energy source I believe in, and it means everything to me. It gives me hope for the future. I have respect for it, but I don't believe that there's going to be a paradise where all the bad people die and all the good people come back and they can live a happy life. And if any good people turn bad, that they are going to die then, because that's what it is. But you live forever if you're good. And there's people that are good but not great because they didn't obey every one of God's rule, and they'll have a chance to make it up to him eventually later, and we'll see if they make it through or not in the trial period. I don't believe that's the truth. If I'm wrong, I apologize, and I am wrong, but I told her, I was like, that's not what I believe and live by. I don't believe that if I go kiss my girlfriend, it's wrong, because it's not. And after everything in my life that, as a very young person, my biological mom was encouraging me to do and letting me do, and how over sexualized I was at a young age, I, I'm not going to just be like celibate now because, oh, wow, that's what you believe and that'll make you happy. No, I'm not going to bring 10 random people, 10 dudes to your house every week. I'm going to be mature about it and have sex with people I trust and only bring people that are serious, like back and around you guys, but I have to be treated like an adult. Tattoos are an art for me. They're not a rebellion. They're something that means the world to me. So I can't keep being treated like, oh, I'm being rebellious. Oh, I'm doing something to make you upset. When the thought of them never comes up when I get a tattoo, except for being hesitant to get it, because it's like, I don't want them to judge this because it means so much to me. It's like letting someone read the most personal page of a journal or take a look into your mind and your thoughts and something really personal and knowing they're going to judge it as something wrong or bash it when it means everything to you, and it's just scary and not right. So I explained to her, like, if I have to respect you and I have to forgive you, because I couldn't go on with resentment. If I have to forgive her for the corporal punishment she still believes in, which I explained to her in that moment, and we had another talk about this before I had my first daughter. I told her I plan to have a child or two. I wanted a girl or two, so I got lucky that way. But I said to her, basically, if you ever scream at them or use corporal punishment, I'll have to cut you out. Things cannot go to the way it was when I was growing up, because it is wrong, and in my beliefs it's wrong. And if they're my kids and you want to be in their lives and I want to have a healthy life with you, if you really feel like how you treated me was wrong, you're not going to ever treat them that way. And she doesn't. And the very few times she's gotten angry, it was never a corporal punishment, but I could tell she was like getting a very firm tone or, getting a little upset or heated. She's taken a breath and not said anything and just stepped away from the situation and let me handle it. So we've really come to terms with all of that, and it's really good and healthy. And she's pulled me aside and been like, I was really thinking about how alone you must have felt, because the tension in the house was unbearable. I had someone who was my best friend as a kid, my grandpa, who wouldn't even look at me the same and wouldn't barely talk to me. He would just work and come home and sit in his room and be away from everybody. And then I had my grandma who had this angry, upset tension, just raised her voice constantly and was just really toxic towards me. And then I wouldn't be allowed to so much as we didn't have the internet until I was much older, like older teen. So like I didn't have the internet, I didn't have a phone, I had nothing. I couldn't do anything. I would go study and they were the ones overseeing it. And then I would go to these multiple horse trainers, and it was strict and it was wonderful because I love the animals, but it wasn't other girls there, other kids there most of the time. There ended up later in life it was like that, but it was rigid curriculum and learning, and I was an adult at a young age. I learned work ethic and I learned how to be a very structured, hardworking person. But to this day, the things I was taught is it's work and it's knowledge, and that's what it is. And then from my biological mom, it was about being a sexual being, and that was what she taught me and the role model she kind of was to me. And the two things in life that I right now pour myself into, well, excluding my children, of course, because I love them more than anything. The two things are work, especially with animals and horses and anything study-based. I love studying criminal justice and psychology, and I constantly need to be learning or I can't stand it. I go crazy. I need to constantly study and learn. And then it's work. That's where I'm confident. That's where I'm comfortable. I like to go to work. I like to, be working, be studying. And then in my personal life, BDSM and sexuality is what my release is. It's come through and it's still a huge part of my life, but no longer in a toxic way. It's just stuck through to adulthood. And I don't want my kids to feel that alienated. I want them to have more to life. I don't feel like now I'm being held back because of it, because now I it's how I was shaped as a person, and I am a good worker, and I can love my kids and have fun with them and do other things and not just be work and sex, and studying. But those are things that give me a lot of peace and a lot of happiness because they were always the parts of my life that I could focus on. They were what I was allowed to focus on when I was with, you know, my biological mom. It was sexuality and in music. And when I was with my, which that was only, like I said, that was that escape, that once a month, once every other week at most, little like outing for a couple hours, never overnight, never stuff like that. It was just a brief moment of the fun. So my fun release is still a lot of times a sexual experience or music related. And then, my life consists of a lot of studying. I love work. I love to find new projects to do and new things to study because that's just how I'm wired. And I love that about myself now. But I realize it's from those being my releases. Those are the things I was allowed to do and would get the least amount of punishment during, depending on, who I was with and what was going on. That's where I had any positive reinforcement, and I banked on that. And my mother would always use things about like weight and appearance and just be really catty towards me. She made me very insecure. She made me, I had issues with eating and I lost a lot of weight when I was about 14. And she would just sit there and be like, oh, well, your boobs don't look as perky when you're skinnier, you know that, right? And, oh, well, guys, like, they're starting to like a rounder butt, so, you're just, no one's going to want to look at you. That's terrible to say to a 14-year-old who dropped down to 92 pounds at 5'3" and with a bustier build, and who then dropped further, and you're just sitting there like, oh, well, guys aren't going to want to touch you. I'm 14 at the time. That's messed up. I was getting that from her, and then my grandma wouldn't even let me watch a PG TV show because, there could be crude humor in it, and it was just so strict, and I used any opportunity I got to, get that release with music and stuff with my biological mom to explore sexuality. And I don't think that anyone should have to learn about their body and life the way I had to, because I did it to please one parent, essentially, and to kind of follow in their footsteps in a way. And then I was made to feel ashamed about it by the parents who were raising me, my grandparents. And no one should feel shame. Even if my kids are young, even if one of my daughters comes to me at 13 and says, I'm thinking about sleeping with someone. It's illegal, it's wrong, I wouldn't like it, I wouldn't condone it, but I'm going to educate them. These are the ways, this is what happens, this is the risks, here's the safe ways to protect yourself when you are ready. And when you educate someone, they could maybe come to the realization that, hey, maybe I am too young. But no scare tactics, because it's not scary, and it doesn't have to be the scary thing. It's a scare tactic, because then if you do it with the wrong people because you're sneaking to do it, and it's just not good. But if you're educated and strong and knowledgeable, if they're already thinking about it, they're likely going to rebel and do it if I just say no and act really harsh on them. But if I sit there and I'm open-minded and talk to them and say, hey, like, I feel like you're young, but here's what happens, and here's how to be safe and protected, and you should have these things you're confident about, because here are the risks, but here are the rewards. And just be an adult who educates and not, actually has the correct information for your child, then they'll make an educated decision, and they know you're there for them. I'd rather know that my child was doing something than them sneak into it and get hurt or feel pressure to do it by the wrong person and have regret. It's not right. So I had that long conversation with my grandparents, basically with all of this stuff, from art to sex to I needed to go get sober, which I did, to tattoos, to dating, to everything. We talked for hours and hours and hours about childhood and about all these things. She told me for a few hours all the stuff that Sarah was saying on the phone, and I was just shakingly angry. I stayed calm. I didn't yell because I don't believe in screaming and yelling. I'm not that kind of person. But I was just livid. I was so angry, and it was just disgusting to me because it was way more than even I had thought she would be capable of, and it wasn't true. It was just all like I was getting punished for things I wasn't doing. And then she's literally sitting there encouraging me to do the things that she knows will get me in trouble. It was very messed up in a way that I would rely on her, because then I'd call her and be like, well, they don't understand. And she'd be the one who was encouraging these things and being my friend essentially. And it was just messed up. So my life has become, I've been so happy. First of all, my grandmother's not even the same person. She is so loving, so calm and kind, and she's much more even-tempered now. And I am so much less stressed, even going through the horrible stuff that I've been going through with the last 30 months being beaten weekly and getting raped, to be blunt. It wasn't just an assault, it was really ugly, and it was a horrible blunt word of being raped, and it was awful. I was able to go get help and stand up for myself and go to the police and go and do something about this to try to help other people so they don't get hurt. And I realized that not only was my grandma able to be a good, kind, not temperamental, not argumentative person anymore, but I'm able to stand up for myself and not live in fear of I don't deserve to have a voice, or I'm burdening people if something goes wrong to me. And I realized it's all because my biological mom isn't in the picture. Because that was, when I tried to talk to her about my PTSD, it was, how dare I burden her, even though we both worked a full day, even though we both were tired. I can't even just state the statement with no gory details, nothing. I can't just say, wow, this is really affecting me. It really sucks. That's me being selfish. I shouldn't talk about it. And, having to go forward with, an investigation on the stuff that happened to my biological brother, half brother, that would have been too much for her. She's already having to go to the hospital for him and everything. So let's let the people get away with it, because she doesn't need that. She doesn't need that stress. That's just who she is. And I say it in a condescending way because that's how it was. In the moment, yes, in the very beginning, we were learning each other, my grandmother and I, and learning how to get our relationship back. But we haven't had a screaming match or a fight, or where she would normally scream and I would use my calm, angry tone back at her, because I'm not a yeller, so I really, really hate when people yell at me. And, yeah, it just eased out immediately, and it's like, wow, she was really just putting just a wrench in everything and just adding insult to injury. It's amazing once you get rid of someone toxic how much happier it can be. And now that my ex is out of the picture, my girls are happy and laughing because they don't feel like a negative parental role. They're not afraid to laugh too loud and have daddy be mad and then daddy hurts mommy. Now they can be themselves and be free. And it's amazing to me how freeing that is. I can see it in my little kids. No, I wouldn't let him scream at the kids, and he was taking his anger out on me. But they felt that hostility from him. And there were times with the youngest daughter that at the very end there, which is why he was gone when he was, between that and sexually assaulting me, which is deplorable. And I'm not getting into it because it was just unspeakably awful. Between that and being aggressive towards our youngest, that's so wrong. And so not all right. And these few months with him being gone, the littlest one went from not walking to walking and running right away in that first week, to laughing and learning more than triple the words she was saying before. The oldest one is just excelling in everything. She's way, way, way above the education level she should be at almost 4. She's literally, she can read first grade books pretty well. It's crazy how she's doing. And the little one's doing amazing too, and it's all because they're at peace. And that's what happened way later in life for my grandmother and I. We had peace with each other because this toxic person was gone. So even though the religion was like I said, because of the religion, she didn't call the cops on my ex quite a few times. She saw him physically beating me and had to pull him off of me and our newborn baby. She didn't call the cops because of that religion, and that's how she was trained. She was trained to believe that, you don't talk about a married couple or a couple relationship. You don't butt into it. You let them work it out, even if it's, a gun being pulled, even if it's someone almost dying. Like, that's what it takes to maybe step forward. And now she thankfully has stepped forward and helped me. But even throughout all of that, she was quiet, and that I had some resentment. And I sat down and told her, like, I was terrified because this is a person saying, if you leave me, I'm going to find a way to kill the girls and you and your grandparents. And I needed, like, I had to work on a safety plan before I left and had him removed. And it took a lot of work, but it was, it was scary. And I made sure to get the safety plan with my counselors going, because I knew if I really thought he would kill everybody, and I still think he will if he's not caught. And I'm still scared of that. And I told my grandma, like, I will call the police immediately if it happens to one of my kids. And I really hope, even though the religion believes that, their religion believes that no one should have the right to kill anybody, so the police force is wrong, that, hey, they are here to defend us. And no matter what you think, it's more important to talk to someone who holds a gun to defend us than to let somebody get brutally beaten and almost killed and sexually assaulted and not do anything. So we had that hiccup, and we had to talk through that about how she has to learn that standing up, you can't just let a religious belief let you cut out somebody for not getting baptized or kissing someone before they're married or getting a tattoo, or you can't let somebody get beaten to near death and almost have them and your great-grandchild die in front of you because, you don't butt into relationships and the police have a gun and they don't have a right to kill people, so in your religious beliefs, so you can't call them. That's not right. And we had that talk later. And other than that, we have not had any disagreements or any problems at all since the years prior to all of this talk we sat down and had. And I don't have any contact with my biological mom because she never raised me. She didn't raise me. She would come in for a couple hours once a month, twice a month at most, and that was when I was older and more fun and could drink and do stuff with her for a very short span of time only. And she never did parent things. She never helped me with homework. She nothing. She never taught me anything like that except for how to flirt and how to like bands and whatever. And it wasn't right. And she's manipulative, and no matter, it wasn't the religious beliefs that she should have been cut out of, my life for, or my grandparents' lives for. It was the morals and what she was as a person. And my grandmother she still is an inactive Jehovah's Witness. She doesn't go door to door anymore, stuff like that. But she still believes in paradise, and she thinks they know the truth. I don't have the same beliefs as her, but we can agree to be different and agree to disagree. And she understands now that for me, because of how I was raised and how I felt, and because of some of the stuff I've went through, especially recently, that I'm a person, and tattoos help me, and being able to talk openly about sexuality and how I think as a person helps me, especially, reading stuff on psychology and being able to talk about the psychology behind BDSM. And I love that, and it's an inspiration, passion for me. It's not to hurt anybody. It's not to go against religion. It's something that matters to me. She actually can see that now and have a good conversation with me and be open. And she understands that, yeah, you know what? She still has that belief that it's wrong, but she loves me and understands that our relationship is important too. She might not agree with it, but she's not going to hush me up or not hear it, or not at least try to understand where I'm coming from. And I try to understand where she's coming from and be respectful of her too. So it's not impossible. Yes, I think if I was talking to one of her sons in the way they raise their kids right now, they would never listen to a word of it, and they wouldn't understand it, and that wouldn't go the same. So not every family can be talked to, not every person will understand. But for me, it actually worked out. Like, we were actually able to get through it and make everything last and everything work, and it was wonderful. So yes, it was hard as hell being raised, and I'm going to start telling some story times on here to really kind of help people get through things and learn that they're not alone, and things do get better. But just know that sometimes being totally honest and explaining why you do something and why you love something is important. It's not that you're rebelling to get a tattoo. It's expressing part of who you are and giving you confidence to be the real you. And just, there needs to be a lot less fear in talking to someone just because they don't agree with your ideals, because you are you. You gotta love that. You gotta be you, and you've gotta own that and be okay with that. And it's okay to be you, and it's okay to be yourself and be happy. And don't write yourself off just because you believe something different. They pressed on me my whole younger life their beliefs as a Jehovah's Witness, and that's what was right, and there was nothing wrong with them believing that, and that no other opinion was right. That was the truth. That was right. That is right. That is how it is. And that's not what I feel. That's not what I believe. I love our law enforcement. I love the police, and I love psychology and worldly answers to things, and conspiracy theories and ghosts and the paranormal, and I believe in astrology and stuff like that. Stuff that Jehovah's Witnesses are just, oh my goodness, it's nothing for them. They don't like it. It's all wrong. And by sitting there and not just liking things that are wrong in their eyes, I actually talk to them and went, here's why this means a lot to me. You can believe what you believe. I'm not saying that I'm not doing it to hurt you. I'm not liking this because it's rebellion. It's just what I believe and what I love. Here's why I love it. And once we broke that barrier, and I also understood why she loves what she loves, it was life-changing. So even if you don't agree with the religion or whatever it may be that they are pressing that you don't agree with, at least understand it. Understand their whole, I understand her whole belief is she wants everlasting life in paradise. She believes this life here is not the life you're living for. You're living for paradise. And that's why she so strongly believes what she does. And I don't believe that. I believe our energy source is important while we're living, and yes, when we die, but we're not going to live forever, essentially. Our energy might, as part of this world, and that might be true, but I'm not going to be in paradise forever in my belief. And so I'm living for now, and now the things that keep me going through the day are my art and my passion and my love for this, and here's why I get through the day. Doesn't mean I think my grandmother's stupid, or doesn't mean she is wrong, or that we have to argue about it because she has to see that I'm right or I have to see that she's right. We can both like and love and have passion in different things, and we should understand that about each other. I should understand why she was so strict about certain things and why she is so hard on herself still about certain things. Because she's living for a different life. This isn't it. She wants everlasting life, not this. She wants paradise, not this world. And I'm living now to get through my PTSD, to be, more than 6 years recovered addict, and to just getting one slip, to be somebody whose goal is to have the best relationship I can possibly have with my daughters so they don't ever feel alienated or alone. I want to help save animals and people by being understanding and really, really helping people understand that animals are so intelligent and have so much to offer that it's amazing and it's so underappreciated. And I want to break that barrier so people can really understand what a beautiful, wonderful thing it is to have anything, I don't know how to word it, to have that relationship with an animal that's so fluid and so beautiful and so wonderful and so open. It's everything, and it's amazing, and it's powerful and wonderful, and I don't know. I want to make people happy, and everything I'm doing has a good intention. I love making people happy and smile and helping people get through hard times, and showing them how to get through them with animals is amazing for me. And I explain that to my grandmother, or having people through a tattoo get beyond something and heal with something is just, oh my God, it's the best feeling in the world. So now that my grandma understands what, let's say tattoos mean to me, she doesn't judge me, and I understand what religion means to her, and that's why I don't judge her. We don't agree, but that's okay, because we respect it. We respect each other, and we love each other, and have that respect and understanding for one another. So just know there's hope out there. And I will touch on in other videos, like how we, how long did it take to be able to talk so openly about everything, and what steps we use to not disrespect each other while doing so. I'm going to really try to hit hard on this because I think it could be helpful. But just know it's changed my life, and it's made my life so much better even through this really hard time, because I've got a friend in her, and my grandfather and I are actually closer now too, and things are really great. So just remember, even if you're being raised by someone who thinks you're rebelling, take a second to try to get them to understand. Don't try to force it on them. Be like, Mom, I'm not rebelling. I love it. It's who I am. Don't come at them like that, please. Please don't, because it never works. It doesn't. Come at them and say, hey, tell them a story of what it is. Let's say it's a tattoo. Say, hey, I went through this moment in my life and I commemorated it with this piece of artwork because I never wanted to forget it. I wanted to wear my heart on my sleeves and have that as a part of me forever because it was that important, and here's why. And tell them the story. Don't try to convince them that you're right, and they shouldn't convince you they're right. You should just explain to them why it matters to you. And having that mutual respect, it's a life changer and a game changer. So I'm going to shut up on this for right now, but I want to touch on a lot more about how to work on relationships and how to really